up as a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
How good would the Atlanta Falcons offense be this upcoming NFL season in 2020? Now, last year, the Atlanta Falcons had a top 5 offense. They were 5th in total yards per game with 379. They were 3rd in the NFL in pass yards per game with 294.6. But they were one of the worst teams in the NFL when it came to running the football. They only averaged 85 rushing yards per game. Now, I think that should change with the new addition of Todd Gurley. Now, a lot of people question, can Todd Gurley stay healthy? If Todd Gurley is able to stay healthy and he is able to return to his 2018 form, oh my gosh. The Falcons got to steal if that's able to happen. You see, a lot of people got to realize this. If Todd Gurley is able to stay healthy and he's just able to get back to at least 80% of what he was in 2018, the Falcons are going to have one of the best halfbacks in the NFL. Todd Gurley is still pretty young. He's only in his mid-20s. He still has like at least 4 or 5 prime years as a halfback. Now, what does Todd Gurley bring to Atlanta Falcons? You're getting one of the best halfbacks in the NFL when healthy, if he stays fully healthy. You're also getting a halfback that's pretty good in the passing game as well. Now, when you look at this Falcons team overall, I mean, this offense is stacked with talent. Like, I think they have like 11 out of 12 of their starters have been first-round picks or some crazy number like that, either 10 or 11. It's some crazy number like that. So, Atlanta Falcons have a lot of talent. And, I mean, let me go back to Todd Gurley. I know a lot of people hate when I jump back and forth, but the LA Rams, a big reason why Todd Gurley wasn't as effective last season as what he has been in the past was not only because of his arthritis, but a lot of people got to remember, the Rams had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. And that was another big reason why Todd Gurley kind of had a fall-off year last year. So when you go to the Atlanta Falcons, you look at a team that has a lot of talent at the offensive line position. The offensive line, if they're able to stay healthy this year, I think they could make a major step in improvement, because the offensive line for the Atlanta Falcons the last couple of years has kind of been shaky. But I think this could be the year in 2020 that this offensive line can put it together. Now, when you look at the wide receiver position, this is one of the 5 best wide receiving cores in the NFL. You got Julio Jones, who we already know is the best wide receiver in football. Yes, Saints fans, if you guys are watching, I'm saying Julio Jones is better than Michael Thomas. Julio Jones last year, 1,395 receiving yards, 99 receptions, 6 touchdowns. Then you got Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley missed a couple of games last year. If he would have stayed fully healthy and played in every single game, he would have had over 1,000 yards. He had 866 receiving yards, 63 receptions, and 7 touchdowns. Then you got Russell Gage. Russell Gage was a guy who came in and filled in and made the most out of his opportunities. 446 receiving yards, 49 receptions, 1 touchdown. Then you got Laquan Treadwell, and you got Christian Blake. Now, Laquan Treadwell is basically trying to save his career. Laquan Treadwell has the most to prove out of anybody on this Atlanta Falcons offense. Because, listen, he was basically a bust in Minnesota and didn't work out. So if he doesn't show any signs and he doesn't, show a pulse that he has what it takes to live up to the level of expectations that he was drafted to be by the Minnesota Vikings a couple of years ago, then the Falcons are most likely going to have to end up getting rid of him at the end of the 2020 NFL season. But, Laquan Treadwell is a guy who has a lot of potential. Any guy, who has that bust status is a guy who has a lot of potential, because he wouldn't have got drafted that high if he didn't. So, Laquan Treadwell, maybe Minnesota just wasn't a good fit for him. Maybe he just needed a change of scenery. So, maybe Atlanta can bring the best out of Laquan Treadwell, and Laquan Treadwell can actually show some sign of a pulse. Then you also got Christian Blake. I like Christian Blake as well. So, the wide receiver position, like I said, this is one of the best wide receiver positions in the NFL. They can really air it out. Then you got Matt Ryan. Now, Matt Ryan, I think he is a guy who is very motivated going into this year. Because Matt Ryan got left off the NFL top 100 players list. Now, Matt Ryan has been a top 10 quarterback in the NFL for the past decade. And Matt Ryan last season, 4,466 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, completed 60% of his passes. Now, I think a big reason why Matt Ryan didn't make the NFL top 100 list this season was because he kind of had a fall off. Because the offensive line wasn't all that great last year. Now, the offensive line improves like I believe that it should. Then Matt Ryan should, his numbers should go back up to where they were in the past. Because Matt Ryan at one point is putting up like 40 touchdowns and nearly 5,000 yards almost every season. So, Matt Ryan, if you give this guy a good offensive line, he's going to put up some top 5, top 10 quarterback numbers. But, last year, I feel like the offensive line kind of held back Matt Ryan. If the offensive line was better, Matt Ryan's stats would have been a little bit more better, and he probably would have ended up making the NFL top 100. So I don't really know how they do the list, but that's the only explanation that I have when it comes to Matt Ryan not being on the NFL top 100. I don't know how he got left off, but that's pretty much the only reason I can come up with, because even though Matt Ryan's season wasn't, the level of season that we've been accustomed to seeing out of Matt Ryan the past couple of seasons, I still felt he was good enough that he should have been on the NFL top 100 list. But hey, I don't make the list. The players that vote on that list, I guess all the players get high and they just write down who they feel should be on the list or anything like that. But another acquisition that I really like by the Atlanta Falcons, other than Todd Gurley, is tight end Hayden Hurst. Now, they lost Austin Hooper in free agency, who signed with the Cleveland Browns, who he is now one of the highest paid tight ends in the NFL at the moment. So, the question was, how are the Falcons going to replace Austin Hooper? Well, they make a trade with the Baltimore Ravens, and they trade for Hayden Hurst, who, by the way, was a first-round pick by the Ravens a couple of years ago. Now, he kind of got outshadowed by Mark Andrews, who was taken a couple of rounds after him. But, look, Hayden Hurst had 349 receiving yards, 30 receptions, and 2 touchdowns with the Ravens. And that was him pretty much being the backup behind Mark Andrews. Now, with him being the tight end one in Atlanta, not really having to worry about, sharing snaps at the tight end position, I think Hayden Hurst could have a really solid season with the Atlanta Falcons. Because although they do have a talented wide receiver core, they got Julio, you got Calvin Ridley, I think the tight end position is a really important part of this Falcons offense. It's always good to have a safety blanket on third down. And that's what I believe Hayden Hurst can be. And Hayden Hurst is also super athletic. Hayden Hurst was one of the most athletic tight ends coming into the NFL when he got drafted by the Ravens. So, Hayden Hurst has a ton of potential and a ton of upside, and I'm really interested and I'm really excited to see what he does for the Atlanta Falcons. In fact, I actually have him on 2 of my fantasy football squads right now as my starting tight end. So now, the biggest question when it comes to this Atlanta Falcons offense and this team is pretty much the offensive line. The offensive line last year, like I said, it was rough. How good is the offensive line going to be this year? So the offensive line is able to be better than what they were last season. This offense should once again not only be a top 10 offense, but it could be one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the NFL. It is tons of talent. If nobody gets hurt and everybody stays healthy, I think this Falcons offense is going to be a big reason why they're going to end up making it to the playoffs. And a lot of people already made a video a couple of months ago. It was a poor video. Like, I apologize that I didn't, I could have did better research in that video. But the Atlanta Falcons are a team that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on. If that defense actually shows up and they're able to stay healthy, and it's like at least a top 20 defense, and this offense doesn't have any significant injuries, then the Atlanta Falcons are a really scary team to watch. The Atlanta Falcons, with the talent that they have on this team, it should be no reason why they missed the playoffs this season. This Atlanta Falcons team has a lot of talent. And the 2 guys I'm really excited about watching this year for this Falcons offense is Todd Gurley and Laquan Treadwell. Both guys are looking to prove something. Todd Gurley's looking to prove that he still has what it takes and that he's still a premier back in the NFL. after being released by the Los Angeles Rams, and Laquan Treadwell is just, fighting for his NFL career. Because if it doesn't work out in Atlanta, his NFL career is pretty much done.